Hey, my name's James Nicholson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about the fact that buy-to-let is dead, or at least very, very hard to do at the moment. The market is tough. And when I'm talking about buy-to-let being dead, I'm talking about just standard buy-to-let deals where you buy a property, maybe a new build flat, and then you rent it out. That is really, really hard at the moment. And in this video, I want to talk about why that doesn't work, some areas where it does work somewhat, and what you can look at doing instead if you want to make money in property in 2026 and beyond. Now, before we jump into this, if you're new around here and you haven't done already, do subscribe to the channel down there and hit that bell notification. We've just hit 51,000 subscribers, and by subscribing, you'll get all the latest house price news, interest rate news, property investing tips, and much, much more. Let's also get some views on this video. How do we do that? Well, your part in that is simple. Below this video is a like button. Smash that like, tickle that like, do something to the like button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that really does help the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that does that. So I've been in property investing since 1999. Back in 1999, I worked in Burger King back then, and I bought my first property, which was a studio flat just a few minutes walk down that direction, and I bought it for £45,000. So I was on about 13 grand as a salary, saved up £3,000 for the deposit, and then I bought the property because I never really wanted to rent. I just thought that was dead money. Now, I did rent for a little bit before that, but I didn't really like the idea of renting. I thought you need to build equity, you need to buy a property that's going up in value. And after I got that property, I left Burger King. I went to work in recruitment, and I worked in a company called Vault Europe in Red Hill doing IT recruitment. And back then, just before I joined, everyone was making an absolute fortune. There was the Y2K bug, if you know what that was, or if you can recall that. And that was where they just thought all computers were going to break when the year 2000 ticked over, that cash machines were going to spit out money. None of that probably would have happened, but IT contractors in 97, 98, 99, maybe some of you were IT contractors back then, they earned a fortune because there wasn't enough of them, so they could charge a fortune to help all these big companies fix their IT systems before all of that stuff happened. And so I joined, and that kind of finished, and lots of people there were making lots of money, so they were talking about investing, and that's where, when I got some more commission, I saved up a little bit of money, and my property went up in value. I did a remortgage, and then I purchased my first real buy-to-let properties in Hastings. The first one was a flat, second was a 3-bedroom house. Now, I thought back then that you just had to wait for properties to go up in value. That's what I did. Basically, the market moved, it went up in value, so I took out some equity. And I thought then you just need to work hard or get more deposits in order to get more properties. I didn't realise that there was other ways in doing that. Eventually, I did figure that stuff out, and I figured out that the best strategy for me was one called the buy, refurbish, refinance, rent strategy. And that's what I do mostly now, where I buy a property, I look for something that needs value added to it. So I wouldn't ever buy a new build property. I just don't think that they work as a buy-to-let. So what I would buy is an older property, and I buy an older property that I can add value to. So here's some examples of that. Last year, if you've been following along on the channel, you can see that I bought a studio flat for £120,000. It was out of probate, so it was someone that, unfortunately, a family member had died. They wanted to sell the property, and I bought it for £120,000. I was a cash buyer. That doesn't mean that I had £120,000 in cash. I used something called a bridging loan to get that property. Then I refurbished it. It was around 5 grand, 6 grand tops to refurb that property. I put a new kitchen, a new bathroom, decorated it, and put new carpets in. Nothing major, but you can see that on the YouTube channel if you want to check out that. Then I went to my broker and I said, right, the property's done. I want to put a buy-to-let mortgage on it. And the mortgage came out at 170. What that allowed me to do was recycle a lot of my money. So I got a lot of my deposit back, and then I can start looking for new deals. We did it in Doncaster. When I launched this channel, is because I've got 2 daughters. I've got Georgia, who's 24, and I wanted to buy her some properties just to make life a little easier for her. And I've got Amelie, who's 4, who I wanted to do that for. And that studio flat was actually Amelie's. Georgia has got a house in Doncaster that we bought in auction for £60,000. We refurbished that for 15. All in, we were in that for £15,000. And then we refinanced it, and on the valuation, they said it was worth 100, so we were able to get all of our money out. Now, that's a strategy called the buy, refurbish, refinance, rent. And anyone that enrolls into the property accelerator, that's one of the courses that's included in that. So those of you that have that, that is a course that's launching in January. We might get it out a little sooner, but we want to manage expectations, or rather over-deliver to you. And that's the buy, refurbish, refinance strategy. That's a great strategy. That works in today's market. Now, another strategy that works well at the moment is serviced accommodation. And so in the property accelerator, those people that have enrolled, we've also got a serviced accommodation course, which you can see here. And so this has got all the videos that you need about tax, about how to get started, the restrictions that you might find on a lease to not allow you to do that, the mortgage types that you need, insurance, buying the property, renting the property, banking company setup, all this stuff that you need. Now, serviced accommodation is where you take a property, either you rent it from somebody, and with their permission, you rent it as on Airbnb and Booking.com and stuff like that, or you own it. So a friend of mine, 2 friends of mine that I've helped do this, one owns a property in Dorking. He was getting £1,500 for a 2-bedroom house in rent. Now he gets nearly £4 a month running it as serviced accommodation. And so in the serviced accommodation accelerator, we teach you how to run the systems, build the team, because you don't want to be changing sheets and doing all that stuff, how to find those areas, and he's doing that well in Dorking. I've got another friend that's doing really well with this, doing it in Horsham, and they bought a property there from abroad. Actually, they lived in Dorking, we went to school together, they moved abroad, and they've purchased a property in Horsham, and they run that as a serviced accommodation. Now, that works really well for him because he has kids in England, so he has to come over quite a lot on flights. And so he just blocks out that week, stays in the serviced accommodation himself, and it gets funded by when he's not there. Then that is obviously doing like he's renting it out to contractors and tourists and all sorts of people. So serviced accommodation is a great way to make better high cash flow, and we talk about all of that in the serviced accommodation accelerator, how to build your team, removals, cleaners, all this sort of stuff that you need, key safes, sofa beds, how to furnish the property. That's all in the serviced accommodation accelerator. So we talk about all the different places to put this on, like Booking.com, Airbnb. There's loads of different things, and how to deal with pets and all sorts of things. And the more important part is running it without you running it. That's very important. So that's serviced accommodation. That's a strategy that does really well in today's market. Next is HMOs. HMOs are house of multiple occupancy. This is a high cash flow strategy. This works very well in today's market, and isn't hit massively by things like the Section 24 tax, the Renters' Rights Bill. Because you're making more money, you can afford to run this property efficiently. Now, if you run an HMO, you need to make sure everything is done properly. But what an HMO is, you could have, for example, a 3-bedroom house. You might have a living room and a dining room in there. You could convert those 2 bedrooms and rent it out on a room-by-room basis. Now, in Leatherhead, which is just down the road from me, you can get £1,000 per room per month. A 3-bedroom house, you'd be getting about £2,000 a month. So if you turned it into an HMO, you'd get £5,000 a month. But the difference is you'd have to pay the bills. But they're not going to be that expensive. The gas, the electric, maybe the TV license and that kind of stuff. You're still going to make multiple thousands of pounds profit on that kind of deal in a month. This also works up north and all sorts of areas. So in the HMO accelerator, we talk about licensing, all that kind of stuff, finding the deals, adding rooms, all of that stuff is in here as well. So that's already in the property accelerator included as well. The next one is a strategy that hasn't been great for a little while because the market was so busy. Houses and properties were selling very fast from 2020 all the way through to 2024. So people wouldn't have taken this kind of deal. But lease options is where you can get a property for £1. And what that means is that you seek someone like a landlord that needs to sell, wants to sell, but can't sell because the market's slow, right? And so that is something that you might say to a landlord, look, you want to sell your property for 200 grand. They want to sell it for that, and that's the only price that they can really accept. But the market at the moment would probably only sell that property for 175 grand. So they're stuck. So you can say to them, well, I will buy your property, but we'll complete at a later period of time. So 5 years later or 7 years later. So I'll give you the 200 grand, but I'm not going to give that to you for 5 or 7 years. Now, that kind of deal wouldn't have worked for the last few years, or it was very tough to do. Now, there are tons of landlords, tons of people that are selling deals that just aren't getting viewings. They're not selling. So people are open to this because they want to get rid of the liability. And so in the lease option accelerator, we teach you how to find these kind of deals, how to make it legal, what to offer. Recessions, which we're coming up to, are the best times to find these kind of deals. Finding deals that have got negative equity. All of this stuff is included in here. The letters that you can send to people, do work with estate agents, like solicitors you need. Everything that you need to know about this strategy is in there. So that's a really, really good strategy that makes great money and particularly works in recessions and down markets, which we're in right now. So that's a good opportunity as well. So all of these are included, and these are the strategies that work right now. So that's important to understand. We did do a VIP deal on this. VIPs that joined and enrolled over the weekend, the good news for you is we're actually adding something else. And so this next step is that we're going to add something called the rent to rent accelerator. And that's where you rent a property from someone and then you turn it into an HMO, you turn it into serviced accommodation. These are strategies that if you don't have big deposits and you're not quite ready to dip your toe into big refurbishments and stuff like that, rent to rent is a great cash flow strategy. So we're going to be launching the rent to rent accelerator in January as well. Anyone that's already enrolled in the property accelerator, you're getting it for free, and part of the Black Friday deal, that's going to be included as well. So if you buy now, between now and Black Friday, you'll also get the rent to rent accelerator. So the strategies in here are really detailed and really give you the formula and the step-by-steps that you're going to need to be successful. And everyone else, how it works is they'll pitch you on a long webinar. You sit there for 2 or 3 hours listening to webinar, and then they'll sell you some courses for thousands and thousands of pounds. Or you go to a hotel and exactly the same happens. You've got to spend your travel, you've got to have a day of work. All of that stuff is not great. Well, this, through us, has all of the details that you need to learn how to do this stuff, and you get it for Black Friday for just £169. So from now until Black Friday, it is just £169. You can also Klarna it. So if you want to save some money and spread the payments, it's £53 a month on Klarna. This is a one-time fee, no monthly subscription, and if we add new courses or programs, they will be included in there as well. So we're going to have some extra courses coming out in the future on like power teams, auction properties, all of that stuff's going to be included. So grab this while you can. How you grab this is below is going to be a link. Click on the link, grab it. It's £169 if you pay in one go. If you want to spread it out, it's £53 a month for 3 months. So it's an absolute bargain. It's just going to keep growing, and the price is going to keep going up. It's already gone up once. It will be going up again in a few weeks. It is not something we're going to keep reducing the price on. This will get more expensive as we add more content and value, but if you buy it today, you get all the updates included for free as well. So any questions, do post below. But yeah, these are the strategies that work right now. Buy to let is tough. It's not going to work longer term, but these strategies do work in a down market. So do check it out while you're here.